What is a real man? I feel the need to present as a real man when making this video, and that is because I'm going to propound. I don't even know what that word means. Not really. I'm drinking a energy drink. Do real men drink energy drinks? I'm going to propound or propose that I know what a real man is when I really don't. But I might say things like a real man does this, right? And so to have any kind of authority, I feel like I need to present as a real man. And I guess this is the place to start, because for a lot of the gender questioning that I went through in my life, a lot of that came from feeling like I'm not a real man. I'm not a how else can I put it? I don't remember the first time I had that thought. There were times when it went from the opposite direction. There were times when I just thought I'm a girl, uh, or even a boy girl. There was a time when I actually thought that. I don't think I put that in my how I came to the idea that I'm trans video, but I remember thinking that once when I was a kid. But it was more in a response to something when someone I was playing with I was a child and I was playing with this troll doll thing that was popular back in the 80s. These little troll dolls with the big poofy hair, and I was sitting on the floor with this troll doll like brushing its hair, and this older gentleman was observing me with very this like kind of intent, kind of like what are you doing? And I remember having this thought that he thinks I'm a girl. I don't know if that was like a telepathic thing or if that was just an inference that I made from the amount of attention he was giving me just for playing with this toy that was, even at that age, I was kind of like, this is a girly toy. But when I had that thought that he thinks I'm a girl, I remember thinking maybe I'm a boy girl, and maybe there are people like me out there in the world who are a boy and a girl in the same body. And so you could probably count that as like the first time, maybe. But I would say the bigger problem for me was sex. How I felt about sex. Uh, Realizing that I was attracted to men, this sort of thing. Not having trouble with my sexual relationships with women, sometimes not being able to perform, or just being uncomfortable. These sorts of things, of course, for me, uh, were like the proof, right? I'm not a real man. A real man doesn't have problems getting an erection when he's perfectly healthy. A real man is not attracted to men. This sort of thing, and just in general, I remember even like from childhood up until well into adulthood, just being uncomfortable around men, and feeling like I had something to be afraid of, something I had to hide. So I may have already made my case that I'm not a real man, because real men don't they don't live that way. A real man is not afraid to be around other men, right? Is that what a real man is? Uh, But this was when I started having these feelings and these doubts about my masculinity. This is when I really started to ask, what is a real man? What does it mean to be a real man? Is a real man someone who is callous or someone who is compassionate? I grew up with this idea that real men are callous. They're not compassionate. But if real men are callous, then is Jesus a real man or is he not a real man? Uh, uh, are real men dominant or submissive? Dominant, right? That's what I grew up to believe. Real men are dominant. Real men are not afraid of anything. Uh, but if a real man is not afraid of anything, then is a real man afraid to try on women's clothing? Is a real man afraid to have sex with another man just to try it? No. Uh, uh, Sometimes I look at myself and I think I look like a real man. There are times like when I put the wig and makeup on and I think I look like a woman. Uh, I'm making this video partly because this was something that was already on my mind, but also because this was something a friend of mine and I were talking about just a couple days ago, which, you know, he was helping me kind of sort through this by asking me a ton of questions. And the questions were all like, what kind of car does a real man drive? Uh, and rank. He was asking me to rank like the cars, like what is the manliest car you could drive, and that's like a pickup truck, right? And next would be like an American sports car, not a Japanese sports car, but an American sports car, right? An American sports car is more manly than a Japanese, right? And this is more manly than a SUV, and an SUV is more manly than a station wagon, and a station wagon is more manly than a hybrid compact mini car. Uh, but is that, I'm going off of bias, right? I'm going off of this is this is the stereotype that has been created in my mind just through observing society. Real men drive pickup trucks. Why do I think that? Because uh, I'm pointing over here because there's a pool company right out here where 90% of the men drive pickup trucks. They're all big pickup truck, king cab, big wheel pickup trucks. And so, this is in my head that this is the manly thing to do, right? If I went to a woman's flower shop and all the women there were driving big pickup trucks with big wheels, then I would think, well, this is what women drive. So this is one of the issues that I have with the idea of the real man, and the difference between the real man and the real me, right? Because I can't really say that my goal is to be a real man if the real man is not me, right? The real man is not the real me because a real man doesn't try to live up to the image. Does that make sense? The real man doesn't have an image up here and then he tries to live up to that. Is that right? Did I just state a truth? Because the real man has his own vision, right? He sees what he needs to do from his own vision. He doesn't need the Bible to tell him what it is. He doesn't need another man to tell him what it is. He doesn't need society to tell him what it is. He knows what it is from his own self because he's real, right? Is that true? A real man does not need his religion to tell him how to act. He might take guidance from other people. He might take advice from other people and weigh it. But he's the one who sorts the wheat from the chaff. So, uh, my friend was asking me things like, would a real man be penetrated by another man? He said, he was asking me, he said something about Trump. He said, do you think Trump is a real man? I said, yes. He said, would you be surprised if you found out that Trump was taking it in the butt, that he wasn't having sex with his wife, that was just, kind of for show, and that on the side he was having sex with men and he was the one who was being penetrated? I said, I wouldn't be surprised. I said, I would be surprised, but I wouldn't be in disbelief. But it was certainly an interesting question for me because in the past, I would have said no. A real man is not penetrated, right? A real man does not want to be penetrated by another man. But then I started thinking about it, and because I was thinking about what is it that makes me think Trump is a real man, and it's the thought that he does what he wants. Isn't that what a real man is? Someone who does what they want. They're not beholden to social expectations. People like Trump because he's not beholden to social expectations. If he feels like saying something that's inappropriate, he's going to say it. This is why I like Trump. This is one of the reasons why I have a lot of admiration and respect for Trump. Now, just to put this out there, as far as him being president, that's a little bit of a different. I'm kind of like I really like this his attitude and his balls that he has, but at the same time, I'm like he seems to make a lot of kind of decisions sometimes that I'm like I don't know if that was wise, but. But anyway, so I was thinking about this, and I thought, if Trump does what he wants, and that's what makes him a real man, what if he wanted to take it in the butt from another man? Would he refuse to take it in the butt from another man because he says, no, I'm a real man. Real men don't do that. Or would he do what he wanted to do? If it's his desire to take it in the butt from another man, wouldn't he do that? If he wanted to dress in women's clothing and lay around and, hi, ladies. I see y'all are looking nice today. Wouldn't he do that if that was what he wanted to do? Isn't that what a real man does? Would a real man dress in women's clothing if that's what he wanted to do? This is what I was thinking about when my friend was asking me this, and I thought, yeah, a real man would do that. uh, One of the things that helped me kind of turn around this idea that I had about what it means to be a real man. Now, I don't actually have a defined picture, but I was reading about a book called Greek Homosexuality, and the only part of the book that I remember was there was a part about a custom called pederasty, which was a custom that still exists in the other parts of the world that were conquered by Alexander the Great, such as in Afghanistan, because he went through Afghanistan, and apparently this is I take that back. I take that back because I don't know that they got that from him. That was just something that I assumed because when I read this custom, I thought that's how it is in Afghanistan, right? So it could be that the Greeks got it from the Persians, not the other way around. But the custom was pederasty is it refers to in this context, at least in ancient Greece, to a customary thing where a mature man finds an immature man and takes him as a disciple, but it is a erotic relationship. They are lovers, and the immature man essentially is the wife. He is the submissive one, and the mature man is the master, the masculine one. And the book describes it as a, like I said, a master disciple relationship. They are. It's not just about sex. It's also about the mature man bringing the immature man into maturity. And I did think it was quite ironic that the way for the immature man to become the mature man was to essentially play the role of the woman. And this was very. At first, I had a little bit of trouble in my head. I'm thinking a real man would not do that. You know, a real man would not play the role of a woman with another man. But then there was this part of my head that started thinking, would he? Would a real man do that? Uh, because if you take the axiom that a real man is not afraid, he has no fear, then why would a real man be afraid to do that? What would he have to worry about if it is just a kind of a rite of passage, right? This is not. It's not. He's not necessarily disproving his manhood. He's just going through a. It's like going to school. uh, would is that a real man? Can you be a real man and play the wife to another man? Uh, in Afghanistan, you can. In Afghanistan, they still do this, where this is what they taught us when I was in the army. They gave us a briefing on some of the customs of the Afghan people, so that we kind of knew, because we interacted with them, and this was like a kind of a just a heads up sort of thing. And one of the things they talked about was this custom of every Thursday night the men in the area will gather together, and the older men will pick a younger man to be his girlfriend, basically. And you can always tell which one is the girlfriend, because once they've been picked, they paint the back of their hand orange. And I remember once I got into the area where I was working at, there was I was at one point I was in a support platoon, and I was put in charge of getting water from the local people into the base. Now, I don't mean I was going out into the local environment and talking to people and then bringing it back. I just brought them in from the gate, so I should have put it that way. So I met the water truck at the gate. I led them into the base and then supervised them as they pumped their water into our water tanks. And there were two drivers, Bismillah and Kabir were the two drivers, and they were both very friendly people. And Bismillah was surprisingly flirtatious. I was trying to learn their language and this sort of thing. I was trying to, like, I forget what conversation we were having. Surprisingly, they knew a little bit of English. I guess from watching television, they knew who Bush was, and Bush was president when I was there. But but I drew on my hand a picture of a man and a picture of a woman, and I showed it to Bismillah, and I'm trying to, I'm saying man, woman, and I was trying to get, from him how to say that in his language, and he pointed at the woman, and then he pointed at himself, and then he pointed at the man, and he pointed at me, and I'm like, what? And he did it again. He pointed at the woman, and he pointed at himself, and he pointed at the man, and he pointed at me, and I'm like, apparently he's saying he wants to be my girlfriend. And I thought, You know, did I just happen to come across the one, flaming homosexual in Afghanistan, or is this just how the men in Afghanistan are? I mean, I'd already been told that they have this custom where it's, men get together on a regular basis, and it's quite okay for them. And then Kabir, he was always very friendly. He never did flirt with me, but he did come in. He was bringing water in one day, and I noticed that the back of his hand was painted orange, and I thought, oh no, Kabir is somebody's bitch. This is horrible. I'm thinking this is like, no, not you. He was such a nice guy. I'm like, I just can't imagine you having to be some man's girlfriend. Of course, he didn't have to, but this was very much a difficult thing for me to reconcile. I'll put it that way. But in their custom, this doesn't make Kabir not a man, or Bismillah not a man. For them, that's just how it is. Uh, in ancient Rome, they had ideas about what it meant to be a man. If a man was penetrated by another man, he was unmanly. But if a man had sex with another man and he was the penetrator, that was not considered to be unmanly. And that to me actually kind of makes sense, because from my perspective, if a real man is someone who does what he wants, if a real man sees another man and wants to put his dick inside of him, then he does it, right? Because you could say that a real man is king of his own castle, and his own castle is this thing up here, which is to say that he does it. A real man doesn't need other people to tell him what he wants and what he does not want. You know, a real man doesn't need his mama to say, you need to stop with this sissy shit. Because if he wants to do the sissy shit, then he does it. Isn't that right? Is that because if you have certain axioms about what it means to be a real man does what he wants. A real man is not afraid. Then, if a real man wants to do some sissy shit, he does it, right? Because he's not afraid of what other people think. Are those axioms though? Is it true that a real man is not afraid, or is it true that a real man does whatever he wants? Certainly, it makes sense for a real man to have some kind of prudence, some kind of wisdom, intelligence, or whatever, and not just be a bumbling moron who just goes around following his every impulse. Uh, yeah. In some way, this video is a response to the Matt Walsh video, What is a Woman? Which I was disappointed by, because I was actually hoping that they would talk about things like this, like things about like the stereotypes around being a woman. Like you can, instead of asking like what is a woman, he could have asked like what is a real woman, because I'm not really concerned with what a female is. I know what a female is, and I know what a male is, but in our society, just being a male is not enough to make you a real man, right? At least this is how I felt for most of my life. Just having a penis doesn't make me a real man, right? Uh, which I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth, but I do believe Matt Walsh, who made this video about what is a woman, who kind of insisted that a woman is someone who has a vagina, then on the other hand criticized Dylan Mulvaney for not being a real man, despite the fact that Dylan Mulvaney is a male, right? So it seems that he's having his cake and eating it too, because a man can can be not a man if he acts like a woman, but he can't be a woman either, right? Because a woman is someone who has a vagina, right? So if you have a vagina, that means you're a woman. If you have a penis, that means you're a man. But Dylan Mulvaney is not a man, according to him. I do believe he said that. I could be wrong about that. But isn't that what people think? That if a man, Dylan Mulvaney he's not a man, he's a woman. Well, some people say he's a woman. But some people say he's a man. But I could say, well, he's a real man because he's doing what he wants. He's not afraid. He's not a coward like some of the people who pretend to be real men. That I could say that a person who pretends to be more of a real, who tries to live up to the image of a real man or pretends to be a real man is less of a man than Dylan Mulvaney. Because at least Dylan Mulvaney is doing what he wants and is not afraid of what other people think. Maybe he still has some kind of fear, but there's no... But that does depend on what is a real man to you. You know, if a real man is someone who pretends, you know, this is one of the things I was talking about with my friend was, you know, if I say that a real man drives a pickup truck with big wheels, you know, a king cab, and it has to cost at least $40,000. If it doesn't cost at least $40,000, it's not a real man's truck. So if I know that, and I want to convince people that I'm a real man, then all I have to do is go buy a $40,000 king cab truck with big wheels, right? And do people do that? Do men do that? Do men buy king cab pickup trucks with big wheels because they want people to think that they're a real man? Is that what a real man does? Do real men go out and buy $40,000 pickup trucks with big wheels because they want other people to see them as a real man? Is that what a real man does? I don't think so. I drive a soccer mom van. And I drive it because I don't care if people think that I'm effeminate. So, does that make me more of a real man than someone who buys a pickup truck? Sometimes I feel like I am more of a real man than a lot of the men that I know. And it's just because of that. It's because I'm not going to say that I do whatever I want, but I feel like I'm more inclined to do what I want and to not be influenced by the expectations of society. That I am more likely to see myself as my own boss and not as society's rules and expectations as my boss. Uh, there are quite a few things in like spirituality, religions, things like that. Like the Tao Te Ching, there's a line where it says, if you conquer 1,000 people, you are strong, but if you conquer yourself, you have true power. And this is what I mean by being my own boss. Like I I'm not going to say that I do whatever I want and that I'm not influenced by other people. That's not the case. I am moving in that direction. I'm moving in the direction of I move according to my own vision. I have a vision and I go in that direction. I might question where my vision comes from. I currently have this vision of me marrying a woman, and I question, what is this? Is this legitimate? When I say legitimate, I mean like, is this a true desire, or is this a something that where I have an ulterior motive? You know, where I feel like maybe this is just my last ditch attempt to have a normal life, because there is that part of me that just wants a normal life. I don't want to have to deal with the freakness all my life. I don't want to have to deal with being an oddball and someone who deviates from the norm in like all aspects of my life. Like I live in a bus. I drive a soccer mom van and a bicycle. Uh, I get food stamps. I say that because in the area where I live, at least, being a real man means you work. You work hard. You work many hours. The pool company that I was pointing at earlier is my father's pool company, where he works 6 days a week, like 12 hours a day, and he has gotten my brothers into that same kind of religion. And there seems to be a little bit of, I'm not going to say that that's what it means to be a real man for them, that they never said that, but they do. I do get the sense from them that it's not just that they value hard work, but that they see that as this is what a real man does, because a real man, I remember my father saying to his employees one day that he was proud of them because their clothes were dirty, and that there was a project manager at one of the pool jobs, and he doesn't work for my father's company. He worked for, they do subcontract work a lot of times. So the other general contractors will hire them to put in the pool for them. And apparently this is one of those instances. And the project manager showed up wearing nice clothes. His clothes were all clean. But he made less money than the installers who work for my father. And so he said, I'm proud of you guys because this guy showed up. His clothes are clean. You guys are dirty and you're making more money than him. And I remember thinking, what does their clothes being dirty have to do with, you being proud of them? Why is that something to be proud of? And when I look at their overall behavior, it paints the picture of the real man to them is someone who does blue collar work. Sitting at a computer all day in an office is not something a real man does. And if you're not getting dirty, you're not a real man. So this is, my father never said that, but I can't say that this is something that they've said or this is like their dictator. They have an SOP somewhere where it says a real man does this. This is just something that I've picked up that, that the issue, why does it matter if the project manager's clothes were clean? Why is that important? Is it because it's important for people in general? I mean, would he be proud of a woman who had dirty clothes? Maybe he would. He has a lady who works in the shop who deals with customers. Would he like it if she showed up to work and her clothes were filthy? I don't think so. That was a bit of a rant, but I guess I should throw out there that I don't know what a real man is. I don't know if there is such a thing as a real man. There are times when I feel like a real man, and I would say that I feel more like a real man because I'm going through the trans stuff. That dressing in women's clothing and even things like, buying the soccer mom van, which was probably something that 10, 15 years ago I might not have bought. I say I might not have because I'm not sure, but pretty much every vehicle I had before that was something that was kind of high on the manliness chart. I had pickup trucks, a motorcycle, Jeep Cherokee. I had two Jeep Cherokees, two pickup trucks, not all at the same time. This is because I, but in sequence. But did have a Honda Civic. So, but yeah, I'm feeling like I'm fizzling out here. I'm running out of steam. Time for me to go put my work boots on and go to work. And get dirty out here. I'm building myself a kitchen out here behind the bus because I have mice in the bus, and I figured the best way to get the mice out of the bus, because I can't catch them, is to get my food out of the bus. And so I'm going to do some real man's work, right? Because real men don't sit on a computer all day. Isn't that right? I don't know. I guess if I were going to define a real man, I would say a real man is someone who owns 3 guns, 1 shotgun, 1 rifle, and 1 handgun. So if you don't own those, you're not a real man. A real man is someone who starts his own business instead of going to college. If you went to college and you're working for somebody else, you're not a real man. You have to own your own business. A real man is someone who has sex with as many women as he can. He doesn't marry one woman. So if you're married to one woman, it's a sign you're a wimp. A real man is someone who does not go to the gym to work out. Real men don't do that because they don't need to impress people with their physique, right? But real men have a physique from the hard work that they do, right? Because real men do things like they build their own house. So if you didn't build your own house, you're not a real man. If you paid someone else to build your house, you're a wimp. What else? If you're afraid to try having sex with another man, you're not a real man. You're a wimp. If you're renting an apartment and you don't know why you're renting the apartment, you're not a real man. And I mean that you never put any thought into alternative options. You just said, I need a place to live. I'm going to go rent an apartment. You never considered living in a tent or being homeless or buying an abandoned farm. You just said, I'm just going to find the nearest thing I can find. And you get an apartment. Now you're paying $1,000 a month and working 2 jobs just to pay rent for the apartment when you could have just bought a tent and lived outside in the woods in a tent. You're not a real man. What else? If your name is Jim, you're not a real man. Sorry, Jim. This was just the first name that came to mind. Oh my god. Should I just stop there? I think I am running out of steam. I'm running out of juice. My energy drink it's not doing the trick. And I don't want to drink another one because I told myself I'd only drink one. And a real man sticks to his promises to himself. I think that's a good place to end.